Hello and welcome to Vino Karma. My name is Amanda Layden and I am the host of the Vino Karma show. Today I have the incredible Shae Frichette, the co-owner and co-winemaker for Frichette Winery and Sashay Wines. Shae is incredible. She has so many accolades behind her, and she also started her career in something other than the wine industry. So we're going to talk today about her journey into wine, a little bit about diversity, equity, inclusion, and representation, and what happens when you flip a coin and change your life. So welcome to the show, Shae. It's really great to see you, and thank you for being here with Vino Karma.
Yeah, this is so cool. I can't wait to chat.
Me too. So for folks who don't know you, can you just share with them a little bit about your journey? And then we're also, after you share your journey, we're going to orient them in terms of where you are in the world.
Yeah, so I'm from South Carolina, and I actually grew up competing, jumping double dutch. So I was a part of a double dutch champion, team in Marion, South Carolina. So after getting to compete and completing high school, I went to college in South Carolina, then moved to Southern California, had a great life there in organizational development and leadership. And then you kind of tease flipping a coin. So that's kind of how I got into wine, flipping a coin and knocking on doors. And here I am, a second career later.
It's, I love when big life decisions are made and they're made literally by, is it heads or is it tails? And so can you just share a little bit more of the story in terms of what you were deciding between and who won?
Yeah, so my husband's from Washington. He's from Tri-Cities and I'm from South Carolina, but we met in Southern California. And after being married for a few years and, working for a few years, my husband, Greg, was just like, you know what, life is good. Let's have a kid. And I was like, okay. And he said, if we have a baby, we should move closer to our parents. And I thought that meant we move closer to my parents in South Carolina. And of course, he was assuming that meant we move closer to his parents in Washington State. So obviously we were not on the same page. And after arguing about it and neither one of us giving in, Greg just says, you know what? Let's leave it to fate. Let's flip a coin. If it lands on heads, we move to Washington. If it lands on tails, we pack up and go to South Carolina. So, I was 2 glasses of wine in. I thought that was a brilliant idea to leave my life to a coin toss. So that's what we did. He flipped a quarter. That sucker landed on heads for Washington. I said, best out of 5. And he was just like, no, we decided wherever it landed. And so I checked to see if it was a 2-headed coin and it wasn't. So life brought us here to Washington State.
Well, I think that story is incredible. And it just also goes to show kind of the power of trusting things sometimes and letting the journey unfold as it happens. I made one of my biggest life decisions, not by flipping a coin, but in a bar after several gin and tonics. So I ended up moving abroad for 10 years on a whim. And I made it in a bar and literally walked outside, booked myself a plane ticket to London. And then I was there for 10 years. So I totally understand making big life decisions in an instant and then seeing where the journey unfolds. So can you orient people in terms of where you are in the world and what's special about Red Mountain, the AVA, where you are in Washington State?
So Washington State, most people know Seattle, which is on the western side of the state. Plenty of rain. It's beautiful and plush, big city. So I'm kind of the opposite of that. So I'm on the eastern side of the state, on the other side of the Cascades. It is very dry. It's desert-like here. We have mountains and you just see a lot of brown. We get here on Red Mountain, we get very little rain. We get about 6 inches of rain a year. And so there's some parts of Eastern Washington that gets a little more rain, but just in generally speaking, it's like a desert. The cool thing though, is a lot of ag products come from this area. So we're talking apples and onions and juice grapes and hops. Actually, most of the hops in the US come from this area.
Wow.
Berries, raspberries, blueberries. And so a lot of amazing ag products are grown here because we just have the perfect terroir for that. And in addition to all those types of agricultural products, we have in the mix wine grapes. So wine grapes grow incredibly well in Eastern Washington, specifically here on Red Mountain, which is this postage stamp size AVA. It's only 4,000 acres and it's right outside what's called the Tri-Cities. And the Tri-Cities is it consists of 3 cities, Richland, Kennewick, and Pasco. And these cities are kind of broken up by the mighty Columbia River, which is a major source for water here. And so this is, when you think of Tri-Cities, think of just like this place we actually have 3 rivers here, but the Mighty Columbia is the largest. So when you think of like water sports and golfing, we have amazing golf courses here, a lot of privately owned mom and pop restaurants. We have chains here too for folks who are just like, I want something that's very predictable. So we kind of are centrally located in just like this beautiful vista that has all these ag products. So Red Mountain is right there. And we get insanely robust, intense wine grapes because the berries are real small. And so they make just really beautiful, intense wines. And so I'm stoked to be here. We knocked on doors to get here. There was nothing for sale. So my husband and I just went knocking on doors, begging people to sell to us. And after 4 no's, the folks who own the little 5.5 acres finally said yes.
Wow. I think that's incredible. It's also just a testament to, when you truly believe you're supposed to be doing something, not taking no for an answer. And, you hear so many stories about successful entrepreneurs or successful people in the world where it's like, 35 no's later, and there they are with the best-selling book. Or, you can think of all of these people in history that have just said, this is the thing we're going to do. So how has it been since you now have these 4 little acres, this winery, and then of course we had 2020 happen. So what has been keeping you afloat and keeping you connected to your customer, the clients who buy your wines during this time?
Well, so the thing about wineries, we have wine clubs, and a wine club is where a wine person will just say, you know what, I will commit to buying wine from you for a year. So they sign up for your wine club and you pick those wines out and they accept those wines and they buy more wine. And so we have an incredibly loyal wine club. I mean, these are fans that are like family to us because most of the time you come into our tasting room, Greg and myself, we're here. And we have a wine club concierge, and she's mostly here too. And so you really get like our family. And so our wine club members just really adore that and are super loyal. So they really kept us afloat just in buying wine, not only for themselves, but for friends and family and as gifts, or just as, hey, you might be having a crappy day because it's a crappy year. So here's some wine. And so that was good. And we've had some amazing brand new customers who found us through things like this. And they've been really amazing to purchase wine from us for the first time without even trying it.
I think that's great. One of the things that I noticed when I received my wines from you was just the attention to detail. You can tell that you love the fact that people are getting bottles of your wine, they open it up. There's I'm not going to give it away because there's like little surprises inside of the box, and I was so delighted when I opened the box. I get wine all the time, right? So I was, I'm just kind of used to like, oh, I'm just going to open the box and, oh, it's wine. And then I opened it. I was like, whoa, this is like so cute and kind. And I could just see you and Greg's personalities in the box, and it made me so happy. So thank you for that. And also, I think that's just a little teaser that if people get wine from you, you never know what's going to be in the box.
Oh, yeah. Love that stuff. Love doing that.
Oh, so cute. So, and it makes people feel good. It's just like those little things in this kind of dark time in the world that just those little things go such a long way. So I very much appreciate it. Can you talk about what's behind you? So Sashay, and what's also behind me as well, the Sashay wines. Can you talk about the impetus behind creating that label and bringing it to market?
Yeah, so a few years ago, I was looking for, I was like, you know what, I just feel like I haven't done anything new. I feel like I haven't really grown the way that I want to grow, and I needed some source of inspiration. And so I went to the internet and started just searching inspirational events, retreats. And in my search, I came across an event called Celebration of Black Women in Wine. And that just really stopped me in my steps. And I looked more into it, and I saw that there was an event in Miami that was in just a few weeks. And I was just like, I have got to be here. So I purchased my ticket, booked a flight. And when I got there, I was so delighted. I saw Black female winemakers and Black female wine brand owners. And that in itself just inspired me, because that's something you just don't see every day. And in connecting with these women, they really empowered me to step forward and step up and challenge myself when it comes to my wine game. And so when I got back on that plane to leave Miami to come to the Tri-Cities, I developed Sashay. I wanted a wine brand that was more of an expression of me, that I can work with new varieties that I hadn't worked with before. Because Frichette really focuses on Bordeaux varieties, and we've kind of nailed our style, which I absolutely love. But I wanted to work with Syrah, which doesn't really fit into our Frichette portfolio. So I created this label called Sashay, and I wanted it to be approachable and sassy. And I wanted the label and the message on the back of the bottle to inspire other women in just the way that I was inspired when I went over to Miami. So sachet is a word that you can commonly hear in the South when you see ladies and they go, look at you sashaying like you don't have a care in the world. And so I love the word. It's a play on my name, Shae, as well. And so I just wanted to do something that I can have a little fun with.
I love the label too. I think the label is fun, but it's also very, very powerful. You get a sense of, I think, place and provenance and personality. And there's all these things that come through with that creation in terms of what you've created. So kudos to you for creating it and for stepping into your own personality, because I think all of us in business, regardless of what we do, or even if we are in the trade or something outside of it, we can get stuck into our own rut of the things that we know we're good at. And so stepping into that power is really amazing and really great that you're able to bring that to the world. I often joke or say that, winemakers, when they make something, it's like this mark they're making in the world and their legacy they're leaving. And so to me, that feels like for you, it's like this expression of some legacy that you get to hand down when people are opening that bottle.
Yeah, I love the way that you express that. And for me, I'm not like a painter kind of artist. And so, I had this vision of what I wanted it to look like and what I want people to feel, but I couldn't quite figure out how to get that on paper. And so I met with this bright young artist, Chance Watt, and I just said, hey, let me just tell you what I'm thinking. And can you put this on canvas? And we sat for 2.5 hours over coffee. And I was just like, this is what I'm looking for. And he asked some amazing questions and he came back with that, which I thought, I'm just like, wow, that is a dope piece of art. I love it. It is exactly what I was thinking. How did you know? And he was like, because you told me. We talked about it. So I loved that.
I also love that it comes kind of full circle, that you're able to bring a young artist to the fore in a different way that maybe he wouldn't be recognized. I don't know if he's done labels before for wineries, but or for wines, but that's also a very cool way to put his art out into the world and for people to take note. So that's also really important as we support one another in our endeavors, regardless of race, sex, orientation, whatever that is. But it's really cool that you were able to do that and help him as well bring his expression to the world. So one of the things that I talk to people about when we're having these conversations is just, the wine industry itself, or the beverage, wine, beer, spirits industry in and of itself. It hasn't necessarily been the most welcoming to women, to people of color. How has the experience been for you, and what changes have you seen in order to make the industry more equitable?
Well, I'll speak for the Washington wine industry that I'm in. My experience specifically just with my peers and my colleagues has been positive. So we are, especially here on Red Mountain, the community has been very open and welcoming. And so that part has been a real delight. I had complications when it came to just getting my wine into stores and meeting with trade. I felt a little more dismissed there, especially when I'm at events and I'm pouring. It was just I got passed over, buyers didn't really recognize me as a co-owner or a co-winemaker, and so I felt a little disrespect is what's coming to mind. But I guess what I kind of felt was like passed over, and it was a little bit, to me, it was embarrassing. And so I just pulled back from doing those events. I rarely went to them. I would help plan those events for an association I was a part of, but I just decided not to focus our brand on that and really take our brand more direct to consumer. where the consumer gets to decide what they want to buy versus someone deciding if my brand could go into a space or not. And I think that served us really, really well. So I did want to separate that. The industry, as far as wash and wine industry, fantastic. But then, some buyers just, I felt really passed over. And changes, I do feel like, especially with the Washington Wine Commission, they've always been, pretty open when it comes to recognizing diversity and inclusion. And I think that they are making real strides now. They're kind of putting their money where their mouth is and just saying, look, this is what we're doing. We recognize it, and we're making decisions on how we use our money and how we market Washington wine, and being incredibly inclusive and really moving and almost like really being very deliberate. That's the word I'm looking for, being extremely deliberate in how they're doing it. So that's really fun to see.
That's great. That piece of intentionality, especially as we try to create change in this industry, is key. Also just thinking through, people who are making decisions, whether they be buyers or distributors, thinking through, like, what does their customer look like right now? Because the customer is not the same customer it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And there really needs to be some conversations at those seats of power or decision-making to say, hey, is this in the best interest of our customer? And if not, then what? Because your customer is going to go elsewhere. We've seen that time and time again. And especially now in this cancel culture, we're seeing that if consumers don't like what an organization is doing, regardless of how big or how small, they will put their money they will also put their money where their mouth is. And I think for you, it's really interesting too, because you have developed such a loyal following, and people love your wines. So it's really interesting how you've been able to forge your way and say, well, we're not going to deal with all of that to a certain extent. We have our own way we can get to the consumer. So well done on that. Is there anything else you think the consumer needs to know about the wines they purchase, the spirits they purchase, the beers they purchase, or, really how they spend their dollars, particularly in this industry?
It's impressive what consumers are doing. The consumer is a smart consumer, and there's so much information at our fingertips that they're doing a lot of the research. And I've even been educated by the consumer on what goes into products or who's making products. And so, kudos to the consumers we have today, because not only are they doing the homework, but they're also pushing brands to do better. And I certainly appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I've been called out on supporting a couple of brands, and I had no idea, honestly, what was going on behind the scenes. And I'm, it's a little scary when that happens, but it's also like, oh, thank you, because I don't know, I'm a couple steps removed truly from the wine trade now. So if people aren't telling me because I'm not hearing everything, then I'm not going to know. But it also brings to attention, what brands do we actually try to elevate on our platform, and who is, also really truly doing things that benefit the consumer, that think about the consumer, but also have diversity, equity, inclusion, and representation in mind.
Yeah. And I think it's all about educating too, and just treating humans with grace. And so as you were saying, like, sometimes you're supporting something and you just don't know. And someone else, it's a beautiful when they come and they say, hey, I don't know if you knew this or not, but this is what's happening with that brand. I always say, when you know better, do better. And I mean, that's not something I made up, so when you know better, do better, really. And then, so I can appreciate when as consumers or as humans, we're sharing the love and just really expressing and showing grace and just saying, I don't know if you knew, but this is, because for a lot of us, we'll just go, dang, I didn't know that. Well, thank you.
Yeah. And I think there's something interesting to navigate right now too, which is the source of truth. So it's like, what do we start to, what am I responsible for in terms of the decision I'm making based on the information I have? And so and there's a lot of noise out there right now. So it is, I think, going back to, okay, well, I didn't know that. Now I better do my due diligence and I better figure out what steps I have to take to rectify if there's anything that I personally did, or to say, I'm going to put my dollars behind this other brand over here to create some form of, I don't know, parity in terms of the choices I made in the past. Are there any trends right now or other changes or things you're seeing coming down the line in terms of the wine industry that really excite you right now?
I'm hearing brands talk, just like from my little circle of winemakers and wine friends, talk about bubbly now, more so now than ever before. I think rosé has been really trendy for a little bit now, and I'm seeing just a lot more rosé on the market. And in our own area, since we have a research program here with Washington State University, it's all about continuous improvement in the vineyard, continuous improvement in the production facility. Mm-hmm. And so there's a big movement on what types of things can we do better, and really learning how to work with what Mother Nature is giving us with the changes we're seeing in the climate and temperature. And so those are the things that really excite me, because, when I was in organization development and leadership, I was working for a manufacturing organization. And so it was all about Lean Six Sigma and all about continuous improvement and Kaizen events. And so I love that mindset of, our wines are great. How can we make them better? What are we learning this year? And how can we take it to the next level? So that gives me goosebumps.
Yeah, that's great. And what do you think are the biggest challenges that the industry may face over the next couple of years? I know you don't have a crystal ball, but if you were to imagine things that, you're going to have to contend with as a winemaker and as a winery owner, what are the things that you could foresee that you're going to have to step up and rise to?
Well, I think with 2020, like that really shook things up, and that changed a lot on how wine's getting to our guests and our consumers. And so I think that, we thought we knew one thing, and now we're seeing that we're shifting. I think that the challenge with it is really just trying to figure out what happens next, because we won't go back to what was normal. We'll have our new normal, and navigating and figuring out what that new normal is. Do we do stuff to get ahead of it and shape it? Or do we kind of see where the consumer is going and what the new rules are, if you will, and figure out how we fit into that? So I think that's where there's kind of a little bit of, where things are going to go. We look at things like market segments of, price point in wines, and how do we, if we should get into a certain market. And for us, it's a little more difficult because we are using Red Mountain fruit, which has a cost, and we do make our wines a certain way. So we're aging them 18 to 24 months, and we're using a lot of French oak on our wines, which can cost. And so it's just things like that where I think can be a challenge for us is, we have these opportunities here, but where do we stick with what we're doing and just continuously improve this? Or do we try and look and see where we take our wines and where we go? So probably the challenge is things are just so different now. It's what do we do to respond to that?
Yeah. And, with the world kind of rapidly opening up right now, at least here in America, I can't speak for the rest of the world, but, at least I'm in California, and it's kind of like it's back to normal, which is a little bit frightening. But do you foresee any changes in hospitality space at all in terms of, getting product, say, to restaurants, or how consumers start to behave dining out? Do you see anything changing on that horizon?
I think so. In my experience here at Frichette, we do have folks who are, who are vaccinated, who feel a lot more comfortable coming out, and they want to get back to normal. But then you still have other folks who are very much reserved, and they want their space. And now they're hyper aware of, things like shaking hands and touching doorknobs. And so, I think that you have everything in between. And so, as a business, we have to be cognizant of all those things. Like, how do we still create a space that's safe for the folks who are still a little more reserved, but then also create a space that's comfortable for the folks that feel like they're safe now and that they don't have to take some of these precautions. So I think for now we are, for us, we still don't have tastings at our bar, which I thought was a lot of fun. You have these strangers come in, they're standing at the bar, they're having wine, they're talking to each other, and you just create this little community, which, like, when does that ever happen where you have a bunch of strangers together at a bar and now we're telling this story and we're creating this community? So I do miss that. I don't see us going back to that anytime soon. So we're just trying to adapt, and we're still keeping people spaced out, and trying to be really responsible and still provide a great experience.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited to see how social connection and gathering changes over the next several months and years, and how, I think wine is one of those. Wine and food are two of those really important things when we break bread and we're able to just kind of come down to a commonality because we're enjoying a similar experience. We're able to see each other's perspectives. And so, one of the things we try to do is create community and connection through our events, our wine events we have, and our other events we have. And so I'm interested to see like how we can also be a part of that change to still create that community and connection. That excites me about kind of this place that we've all been forced into over the past year or so, well, more than that now. What is next for you at Frichette and also for Sashay? Is there anything that consumers need to know that's on the horizon where they can come out and support you, or that they can be looking out for in terms of getting really excited about what's next?
Well, I would say for us, we are focusing on still developing our property here with beautiful landscaping and more seating areas that are either in the vineyard or very close to the vineyard. And so we are really hoping to get more visitors here in our space so that we can spoil them with our wines. So that's one of the things that we're really working towards. And then for Sashay, at some point, I love to make a bubbly. For some reason, it's in my head that I want to make a sparkling rosé. And so at some point that has to happen because I'm already putting it out there. Plus I can receive another dope label just for the Sashay sparkling rosé. And so I'm excited about that. And then the next thing is, for Frichette, we focus on Bordeaux varieties, and we've brought Carmenere into the fold, and it has been a fantastic variety for us, a beautiful wine. It sold really, really fast. And so I'm hoping that we can source more fruit for that. We're trying to for this year, but crop estimates aren't in. And so the grower is a little reluctant to put a contract in or really confirm tonnage. So I'm looking forward to making more Carmenere because I love that variety, the way it shows up here on Red Mountain. And so that's something that's exciting to look forward to for the Frichette portfolio.
And I know we talked about your sachet already, but can you share a little bit more about the expression of Syrah and how it shows up in your bottle that I have behind me? Normally I would be popping it open and drinking it, but it's, we're recording at 9:30 in the mornings.
Hey, I'm not judging, Amanda. I'm not judging. So, pop it open. No, I'm excited that you selected that because I have 2 cases of that Syrah left before it's entirely sold out. And so those 2 cases will be gone today. Yeah. So I'm excited that you have a bottle of that. But, Red Mountain produces grapes that come with like insanely intense flavor. Bold, for the sachet, we're looking at a lot of the dark fruit on it. I wouldn't describe our sachet as jammy, or our Syrah as jammy, which sometimes you can get just some of those jammy characteristics. I would say it's bold, ripe, dark fruit. It's a full body wine. The tannins are assertive, but not aggressive. And so it's a wine that I really enjoy. It comes from a vineyard called Red Heaven Vineyard. What a name for a vineyard, right? So Red Heaven on Red Mountain.
Wow.
Beautiful site, a little higher elevated, gets a lot of sun. And so the fruit comes off just beautiful and crazy ripe. We pick at about 25 bricks, which is the way we measure the sugar. And then I ferment it all the way dry. And so it's a dry wine, full body, medium minus acid. So it's not a really acidic wine, and just bold, intense flavor. It's just, and it serves every part of your palate. So It's not a wine that just disappears. You can feel it everywhere on your palate. When you swallow it, the finish is a beautiful long finish, beautiful long fruity finish on that wine. And then the oak profile on it. So I use 50% brand new French oak and 50% used French oak on that wine. And so you do get some, like caramel and vanilla and oak and just a tad bit of smoke, but in a way that really complements the fruit on that wine. And I wanted to showcase, because Red Mountain wines are fruit driven, that's really what I wanted to showcase, and have that wood just kind of hug and cuddle the fruit flavors on that wine. And I think I did that really well with this Syrah.
I love that. I love hug and cuddle. I don't know if I've ever heard anybody say that about the oak on the fruit, like hug and cuddle that fruit. Like, I love that. What food are you enjoying with it right now?
Well, I actually enjoy a variety of food. I used to play really safe when it came to pairing food with wine. And then working with some of our chefs here, they really pushed the boundaries on food and wine pairings, which I can really appreciate. So, with the Syrah, I would have never just paired, I usually pair lamb with our Malbec, but with the Syrah, I have a Moroccan spice lamb stew recipe on our website. I've made that with the Syrah, and it's absolutely amazing. I love skirt steak with chimichurri, and I've paired that with it. Fantastic. Portobello mushroom. I love mushroom, and I've had portobello with it, which is absolutely beautiful. I don't get much earthiness out of the Syrah, which I definitely get with portobello mushroom, but still texture-wise for that portobello and flavor-wise, it just pairs really nicely with the Syrah. And then I'll pair it with air. I'll just have a glass with nothing.
Air and laughter.
There you go.
I was also thinking, as you were describing it, I was thinking, it's spring, we're coming into barbecue season. Like here in California, and I can imagine like slow roasting some pork in my slow cooker with kind of barbecue style or barbacoa style, like doing a barbacoa and then pairing it with that. So I'm really excited to try it with something here soon. Or even, we have a rooftop at our house and we have a built-in barbecue. So having it up, looking at the San Diego skyline, pairing it with air.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yes. And you mentioned barbecue and slow cooking, like with your pork. Absolutely. I mean, that hands down with the Syrah that would pair, and absolutely with the San Diego landscape. That's a must.
I know. Well, I'm sure you'll be seeing a picture of that pretty soon here.
Love it.
Are there any other up and coming winemakers, distillers, brewers, chefs that you're watching right now that you're really interested in giving a shout out to and supporting, or having people go out and also support them?
There's a few. So we work with Chef Eric Dorman here in the Tri-Cities. He does a lot of private events. And so for anyone who's traveling to the Tri-Cities, definitely look him up and see what he's doing. He works with a lot of wineries. He started the Washington Women in Wine dinner, and it's an 8-course dinner. It's in August, which is one of the Washington wine months. And he nails it with the pairings. And he's one of the chefs that's really pushed the boundaries on food and pairing. And he knows our wines inside out. So it's been really fun working with him. Chef Eduardo Jordan over in Seattle, big name. Everybody knows him because he's fantastic. I love his Southern style when it comes to food and the flavor profiles. And so our wines would be dope next to his food. There's Sorrel on Madison. Chef Aaron over there does a fantastic job too. I've done a wine dinner with him, and where he surprised me. I'm not a beets fan, and I mean I was practically licking the plate. He paired this beet dish with our punctual. And when I first saw it, I was like, I don't know. But I was like, I'm going to try it. I'm not a fan of beets. And seriously, it rocks my world. So I would give a shout out to Chef Aaron as well.
Maybe Chef Aaron can get me to like carrots.
This guy does magic. Let me tell you, he's just magical.
I'm still not there. Is there anything that I haven't asked you yet or that we haven't discussed that we should have had a conversation about, or anything else you want to share with people watching this and listening to this?
I would say for the consumer out there, I feel like I'm giving a speech. We believe in you. No, I believe that our guests and our consumers, whether you're new coming into wine, which I love when we have new folks coming into wine, or you're a wine connoisseur, be open to these small brands that have a story and have passion, and try the wines. And when you are working with the smaller brands like Frichette or Sashay, when you're going to our website and emailing, the chances are it's one of us answering. And so if you have questions about the wines, call, email, and let us tell you the story firsthand, because then you can enjoy that wine and you can also share it with your family and friends and be able to articulate that story. But be bold and just try it. I think we're in a great space for wine. I think the wines are, at least in Washington, are better than they've ever been before, with a lot of the research and winemakers learning and being open to take risks. So I would say grab a good bottle and enjoy.
I think the takeaway from that is, for those of you who are now fangirling on Shae, if you want to pick up the phone, she's probably going to answer it.
Probably, most likely.
Also, for folks who want to start watching your journey, more of your journey and what you're doing, where can they find you on the social medias?
So for everything wine, it's at Frichette Winery, and that's our handle for all of our social media platforms. So you can follow me at Shae Frichette, but following me is not just about wine. So I'm totally into gardening. So it's like stuff like that, a little bit of wines that I'm drinking, which I don't know if people really want to know about that. So I would just say stick to at Frichette Winery for all the background stuff and behind the scenes of what we're doing here at Frichette and for Sashay Wines.
That's great. Thank you. So again, for those of you who are watching and listening, please go out there and support Frichette and Sashay. Sashay, woo, that's a tongue twister sometimes. The sh and the sh coming together.
Right? Sashay. I know it can be a tongue twister, right?
Yeah. Don't say it too many times in a row.
Right?
But everybody needs to get out there and do their sashay.
That's sure. Right.
So please go out there and support Shae and Greg. These are amazing people with an amazing dream that they've brought into the world, and some fantastic wines. And Shae, I cannot thank you enough for your time. I know you are busy. You have an operation to run, and the world is changing very quickly right now. So I know you have a lot to do. So I appreciate you and I honor you for being here. Thank you so much. And what we say here at Vino Karma, for all of you out there listening and watching, please go out there and continue to create change in the world, one sip at a time. Cheers.